Hey there, welcome back. So today we're starting to implement in some enemy AI. You'll see I have my super cute sleeping log there. If I move close to him, he'll move towards me, but he'll stop a decent distance away. And if I get out of his chase radius, he'll also stop. So he has a chase and attack radius that he's using, or he or she, whatever, to determine where it's going on the screen. So let's get into it. Alright, so let's dive in. Where we left off, we have our log creature there, who is snoozing very, very cutely, but we can't do anything with him right now. So let's start programming in the basics of his AI. And before we start with that, let's start by giving him a rigid body and a box collider, which I actually thought I did last time, but apparently I didn't. So I'm going to go to my log here, and I'm going to add a component of a rigid body 2D, and then on my rigid body 2D here I'm going to turn off my gravity scale so he's not falling off the world. And then I'm also going to go to my constraints and turn on freeze rotation. Now in addition to my rigid body, I'm going to add a box collider 2D. This box collider 2D is going to be the collision for this, and it's just the world collision, not the hitbox. So I'm going to make sure that I edit this collider and edit it down to be about where I feel like this guy should be colliding with the world. So I'm going to make it not as tall as he is, or she, and right around the legs, just like that. Let's go out of edit collider now. Okay, cool. So now I should be able to interact with this little guy a little bit. Now one thing that'll happen, since I gave him a rigid body, is I can kind of push him around. There's a few ways that we can change that. You can make him so that he's has a larger mass than the player. Let's hit play before we do this so that you all can see what I'm saying. So if I hit play, if I go down to the log's rigid body down here, and change the mass to something relatively massive, say 1,000. Now, if I run into him, the player can move him a little bit because the player has some mass, but not a bunch. The player went right through them there just that second. Let's see how it kind of interacts with the player. That's not great. That's not what we want. So let's change that. Let's not make this guy simulated. Actually, no, we do want him simulated. We want him to be kinematic, though. So dynamic bodies are able to be moved around in the environment just like that, but kinematic bodies can only be moved through code. And so we definitely want that duder to be kinematic. And you can see right now there's some weird sorting stuff. We're fine over here, but we should be registering on top of him here. We'll deal with that in a later video, not today. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a radius here where within that radius he's going to wake up and then move towards the player. When the player leaves that radius, he's going to go back to his main place. His, we'll call it, I don't know, like position or something. So let's dive into that. First thing I want to do is I want to make a new script, and today we're also going to be talking a little bit about something called inheritance. So the script I'm going to make isn't going to be tailored for the log just yet. I'm going to create a new C# script, and I'm going to call this script enemy, and this is going to be for the AI of essentially any enemy, not necessarily the log. So I'm going to open up this script here really quickly, and there's a few things that I want every enemy to have, and those are going to be in here. So it's kind of like that rectangles and squares thing, where every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. We're going to set it up so that every enemy has certain things in common with each other, but we can change that so that the enemies are more unique. For example, I probably want every enemy to have an amount of hit points. I probably want them to have maybe like a base damage, and let's say a name. Let's have that be what we're going to start with here. So enemy is going to inherit from mono behavior, and I'm going to make some information for this. So let's make a public int, and I'm going to call this health. And let's make another one. Let's make a public string for name. And let's do one more here. Let's make I can't call it name. We'll call it enemy name. You can't call it name because that's a reserved word in mono behavior. And then one more, we'll do a public int, and we'll call this base attack. Alright, cool. So that's it for my enemy script for now, but anything else that I want every enemy to have, I'll come back and add it to that. Now I'm going to create a new script, a new C# script, and I'm going to call this one specifically log. And then let's open up the log script here. Now, rather than inheriting from mono behavior, this is going to inherit from enemy. So everything that was in the enemy is going to be automatically transferred into this. And in addition, since enemy inherits from mono behavior, everything from mono behavior is going to inherit as well. So let's just show you really quickly what that does for us. So if I jump back into Unity after saving my script, I'm going to go to my log, and I'm going to attach my log script to it, just like that. Now, as soon as I attach it, those public variables that weren't part of log but were part of enemy are going to come in. I'm going to give him a health of 2. I'm going to give him a name. We'll call him, I don't know, Larry the log. And I'll give him a base attack of 1. Let's see, what else might an enemy need? Probably need a move speed too. So let's go back into our enemy script. Let's add a move speed. This is going to be a float. Call it move speed. I'll save that. Hop back into Unity here. And I'm going to wait for that to compile. And once it does, I can add a move speed. So this is one of the big principles of object-oriented programming, is inheritance. You want to be able to have things inherit from other things so that they can gain properties quickly and easily. It really is the best way for me to explain it, like squares and rectangles, where we're creating a situation where we have a log which is an enemy, but not all enemies are going to be logs. We could have another enemy that's a bat, and that would have its own health, its own name, its own base attack, and its own move speed that's different, but then it could also have other things that can make it its own thing. It could even have things that override the base parts of it. And this doesn't have to just be variables that we can inherit. We can inherit methods, and we can override those methods based on what we want to do. These are two big principles in object-oriented programming called inheritance and polymorphism. Polymorphism is a big scary word that just means that things can have the attributes of many things. So, okay, cool. So what I want to do here is I want to go back into my log script, and I want to create a target variable. So I'm going to say public, not that, public, and I want it to be a transform because I just want it to be a location in space. It doesn't have to be an entire game object. Transform, and I'm going to call this target, and I'm going to create a couple new float values here. So one is a public float. We'll call this chase radius. Another one is a public float, which we'll call attack radius. So chase radius is going to be inside that radius, the log is going to chase the player. And then inside an attack radius, the log is going to attack the player. And then also, one more thing we're going to have here is a public transform. We'll call this home position. So if the player goes outside of the chase radius, we're going to have it move back to its home position and go back to sleep. So let's get started on this. First thing we want to do is in the start method we want to find our target. So we're going to say target is equal to find object with tag. Isn't it find object with tag? There's find object of type. I thought it was find object with tag. Game object dot find. Nope. Huh. I'm gonna have to look that up. Just a second here. Okay, back. So it's supposed to be game object dot. Oh, there we go. It's right there. Find with tag. And the tag we want to find is player. And since this is a transform, we just want the transform part of it. So dot transform. Transform just holds the location information, so size, rotation, and scale, or scale, rotation, and position. And that's all that we want, because we just want to know where the object needs to be moving towards, if it needs to be moving towards anything. So, what we want to do in here, in the update method, let's actually create a separate method here, and we'll call this void check distance. So what we want to do is find the distance from the log to the target. So if vector3 dot distance, and we need to look for a distance between two things, and the two things we're going to look for is target dot position and our own transform dot position. So this is the log's transform dot position. If that distance is less than or equal to our chase radius, and I just noticed I misspelled radius just once though. If it's less than the chase radius, then why is it not? Oh, because it's misspelled. Radius. Okay. If our distance is less than or equal to the chase radius, I'm going to go really, really simple here because this video is already getting a little long, and then I'll pick this up on the next video for kind of continuing this, because this is going to get a little in depth. Then we want to say our transform dot position is equal to vector3 dot move towards, and what we want to move towards is target dot position. And we're going to want to change that because we don't want it to move directly towards the target position. Oh, I'm missing some arguments here. So we want to move towards target dot position. Transform dot position. Good lord, I'm all over the place right now. Transform dot position, and then where we want to move to. Target dot position, and our max distance delta. You know what, that actually might be, that might work out just fine for us. I've never actually used that. See, do you see how this float is green? That means it's an optional argument. This max distance delta is how far away we can possibly be. So I'm going to have my max distance delta be my attack radius, and maybe that'll work. Let's find out. Alright, cool. And then in my update method, I'm going to check distance. Alright, cool. So, I'm going to pop back into Unity here. I'm going to move my log somewhere relatively far away from our player. And then, did I save? So I should have target and attack radius, all that stuff. Okay, it's thinking. There we go. I'm going to leave the target empty. I'm going to say my chase radius is, let's go 4. I'm going to say my attack radius is 2. And I'm not using that home position just yet, so let's hit play. And let's see how this goes. So first, you can see right away that our target was filled in when we hit start. Now I'm going to move towards this little duder. Whoa! Okay, so way too fast. All right, let's fix that here. Move towards. Okay. I thought there was a way to. Okay, 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, so welcome back. So this is me being a goofball. This attack radius is not at all what I thought it was. This needs to be, by max distance delta, it means delta as in the amount of time since the previous frame. So the amount I wanted to travel per frame. So I'm going to change this down to, did I call it move speed? Yep, move speed times time.delta time, which is the amount of time since the last frame. So that way it's going to average out to be the move speed per second. So it'll be, when time.delta time is 1, it'll have moved the whole move speed. But if it's, 0.02, then it's 0.02 times 1.5, or whatever I set the move speed to be. Okay, cool. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to pop back into Unity here. And let's hit play. And let's see what else I messed up. Okay. It's thinking here. There we go. So I'm going to slowly approach him from down here. Okay, so he's moving towards me, and then when I'm out of his range, he stops. Now, you see what's happening there. The reason that's happening, let me explain here. If we look at the scene view, this is the center point of the log. And then if I look at my player here, this is the center point of the player. The log is trying to put its center point on top of the player's center point, which is never going to happen because they both have colliders. So what's happening is it's going towards that center point, which is pushing against the player, which pushes the player and also moves that center point that this is trying to get to. So what we want to have is we want to have this only move towards the player if it's within chase radius, but not within attack radius as well. So I'm going to make one small change here, and then we'll come back to this in the next video and follow up with this. So the small that I want to change is we want, let me put this on the next line so it's easier to read. So if our distance is less than our chase radius, I'm going to split this up a little bit here just so I can read it better. Then we want to follow to it, but we also want to make sure that our distance is greater than our attack radius. So we're going to say and, meaning this is only going to be true if both of these are true. Vector 3 dot distance from our target dot position to our position is greater than attack radius. So we're only going to move towards the player if we're in that kind of good state where we're inside the chase radius, but outside of the wait, did I do that right? Yeah, we're only going to move if we're in between the chase and the attack radius. So if I go back in here really quickly, we're going to look at the log, and we've got our chase radius and our attack radius. Our attack radius is 2. So if I hit play, I should, oh, that null reference is there for the home. That's okay. So he comes close and then stops. Let's change this attack radius down. Let's make it, say, 1. Okay, so now he comes close and stops. Comes close and stops. So that actually seems like it would be good. If you wanted to have like an attack, you could have it maybe be half a unit, and then that way you could, once the enemy touches your player, you could have a knockback effect where your player gets knocked, a ways away at a quick distance. But now it's not pushing me anymore. I know I had seen in the comments somebody said that they had worked ahead and were having an issue where their enemy was pushing their player. This would be why. And now what I'd really like is it, and this is what we're going to put in next time, once we go out of the chase radius, We want the enemy to go back to its home position. We also want the enemy to be updating its animations, so we'll add that next time as well. So, a little bit longer video, I know, and we didn't complete everything, but we got a pretty good start on it. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask those in the comments down below. You can follow me on Twitter to find out when I post new videos, or when I post just weird cat stuff. You can join my Discord, where I've been chatting every day. And yeah, have yourselves a wonderful day. Yeah, goodbye.